Freya has arrived, and of course, she's already a must-pick in most situations. She has incredible vertical movement, and each take-aim shot is essentially a slightly weaker Sojourn railgun shot. Freya's bolts might be projectiles, so they're harder to hit, but she can rapidly and consistently fire them, which can be very oppressive. Today, I actually don't want to talk about how Freya is played, and instead look at how Freya was beaten, even before the recent hotfix that nerfed her. Freya falls under the hitscan DPS role, which is now sometimes being referred to as main DPS, which is a term that came out of Korea. Yes, I know she isn't actually a hitscan, but that's the name of the role on the team, it's just an older term. This means that the person who plays Sojourn, Cassidy, and Ashe for a professional team will also be the Freya player for the team. Most teams immediately began using Freya due to her dominance, while a few teams stuck with Sojourn, who was the most popular hitscan DPS pick prior to Freya's release. One team was a little different though, and decided to try and beat Freya with Cassidy. That team is Frosttail Esports, the weakest team in the Europe region, and a team that only recently got promoted to the OWCS. Their opponent is Quick Esports, who were also recently promoted, but are the new stars of EMEA. They managed to take Virtus Pro, one of the best teams in the region, to a map 5, and even took down the Ultimates. So how did Frosttails take maps off of Quick while also avoiding Freya? The answer is a D.Va Brawl composition that plays entirely to pocket the Cassidy. This might look like a dive composition, but the goal isn't to start fights with D.Va Tracer dives. It is to put every resource into Kyo's Cass so that he can run in and frag out. Cassidy needs to be closer range than Freya, so he needs more help to close the distance, but once he's within range, he can deal serious damage. Majin on D.Va won't be diving as much, and instead he will be more focused on using Defense Matrix to defend and essentially pocket the Cass. Kiwi on Kiriko will be saving his Suzu to help Kyo's Cass as well, and even Gogo and Lucio will primarily focus on speeding Kyo's Cass around to help him reach his intended targets. You might think of Mercy when you think about pocketing, but she actually isn't the best at it. There are much more oppressive ways to pocket, and this is one of them. What helps Frosttails here is that Oasis is a good map for Cassidy. The angles are short range enough that Cass won't be completely outmatched by the Freya. Pretty much everything lines up in Frosttails' favor for this first map, so let's break down how they made this work. To begin the first fight, Frosttails play through main while Quick Esports take the high ground and set up Zydra's Freya. Kyo and Cass pokes while Majin uses Defense Matrix to block incoming Freya bolts. The point is going to take some time to unlock, so Frosttails know that they can play patiently. Majin runs in to contest once the point unlocks to prevent Quick Esports from taking control, and then Kyo walks in after Willis D.Va flies away. Kyo is hit with a bolt, but Kiwi is quick to Suzu to keep Kyo alive. Now that Quick Esports have used up their defense matrix, Kyo can freely shoot Zydra's Freya and obtain the first kill. He flashes Dip, taking down Quick's second DPS, and this wins Frosttails the first fight. The next fight, Frosttails don't do a great job of playing around Kyo, and he dies relatively quickly, allowing Quick Esports to retake control. If Quick Esports are ever able to successfully single out Kyo's Cass, they can easily win a fight. The composition from Quick Esports is more dive-oriented because the Freya will do her own thing, while the D.Va, Tracer, and Lucio follow up on whoever the Freya deals damage to. This is also how Sojourn dive compositions are often played. For the retake, Frosttails are going to play around Kyo's Deadeye, and I mean really play around Kyo's Deadeye. The ultimate on its own isn't very powerful, but with assistance, it can actually be pretty oppressive. Kyo runs directly forward into Quick Esports, trusting his team to protect him, and he uses the Deadeye. Gogo uses Beat to keep Kyo alive, while Majin uses his Defense Matrix to block any incoming damage on top of that. Zydra's Freya falls once again, despite Willis' best efforts to save him with Defense Matrix. Quick Esports attempt to re-engage, but Kyo is pocketed again by Majin's Defense Matrix and a Suzu from Kiwi. As long as Kyo's Cassidy lives, Quick Esports simply cannot win the fight. The next fight, again, things are a bit messy for Frosttails. They lose Pack and Gogo early on, and this allows for an easy fight win for Quick Esports, without any ultimates required. The fight after that, Frosttails try to pocket their Deadeye again, and it does kind of work. Majin holds the Defense Matrix on Kyo, and he manages to instantly take Willis out of mech, forcing the D.Va Bomb. Frosttails kite away, and Kyo flashes his demons. Like, seriously, there was no one there. And then at a key moment, Gogo on Lucio falls to Dip's pulse, and Kyo is then nailed by a bola shot from Zydra. Majin wasn't able to eat the bola with Defense Matrix since he was already super low. Honestly, Frosttails just rushed the re-engage and paid the price for it. They didn't have the resources to push back in and pocket Kyo, and so they lost the fight and the round.
I mean, you have beat available here for Quick Esports. I mean, there's no reason This should be just unwinnable retake.
Yeah.
Tracer instantly forced to recall, does get the OT touch, but as you mentioned, that sound barrier going to be powerful. Quick Esports, see if they want to push up the point. Imagine, still healthy, could get one more touch. Yeah, okay. So they're going to get a solid delay, but it's costing the lives of their players. Natsuki just doubles down with the sound barrier. They're chasing into the back line. Fighting off the point, of course, really powerful right now. Frosttail's forced to contest for the overtime. And it's just imagine, demeched, cleaned up. And a map that started really well here for Frosttails ends up going against them.
Even if they did lose the round, Frosttails were able to prove the potential of their Cass pocket, and they had another chance to make it work on the second round, City Center. Here, we actually get to see a really fun interaction that can only occur during the first true neutral fight where neither team controls the point on this specific submap. The high ground is the good ground, but that's only if it's actually useful, and Frosttails decide to say no thank you and stand behind the pillar that stands in the center of the point. I am not going to use the name that players tend to call this suspiciously shaped structure because, well, we're not trying to get demonetized here. I need to make rant. By sitting behind this pillar, Frosttails can stay out of the line of sight of Zydra's Freja, making his high ground position almost useless. What makes this even better is that Frosttails can contest the point from this position, so there's no real incentive to move. Why go through all the work needed to send Kyo's Cassidy to the high ground when you can just sit on point and force Quick Esports to come to you? This is truly winning by just doing less. Kyo pokes a bit for sure, but never pushes forward, always keeping in the general area behind the pillar to make it difficult for Quick to approach him. The primary target for Frosttails is Willis on D.Va, and the reason is because Willis is the player who will contest the point for Quick Esports, and if he is forced away, Frosttails can take control and turn the stalemate into an all-out win. The idea is that as long as you're gaining point progress, you don't care if Zydra's Freja sits uncontested on the high ground. If nobody peeks him, it's not like he's doing anything anyways, so he isn't the target in this situation. Zydra eventually drops off of the high ground to get a better angle, but Quick Esports aren't really able to put a dent in Frosttail's bunker on the back of the point. Once Willis is forced away, Kyo pushes forward a bit with the assistance of his team, and once all of Quick Esports drop, Kyo just rotates to the opposite side of the pillar again to keep out of the general line of sight of Zydra's Freja. Quick aren't able to contest forever and are forced to allow Frosttails to cap, and from this point on, Frosttails just want to buy as much time as they can. Quick have built their Kitsune, and Yoham uses it to push and force a brawl with Frosttails. Kiwi uses his own Kitsune in response and also saves Kyo from a pulse bomb with his Suzu. Kyo then uses Deadeye to try and force Quick Esports to back off, and he slightly mistimes the shot, which means Willis D.Va survives for now. Kyo hits the D.Va with the Fan the Hammer as many times as he can before dying, unable to secure the final blow, but Frosttails are still alive and healthy. Quick Esports had used almost all of their aggressive resources to kill Kyo, so it is now realistic for Frosttails to draw out this fight for a while. Majin uses D.Va Bomb to remech, and then both teams trade beats and enter yet another brawl. Willis is able to hunt down Kiwi's Kiriko, which won the fight for Quick, but that didn't stop Frosttails from getting a little more out of their control, netting a total of 52% on the point after losing the first fight. I've already shown a bunch of different fundamental concepts in this video. I actually think this is one of my more educational videos in a while, and there's still room for yet another. Now that the point is under the control of Quick Esports, forcing a stalemate doesn't work as well, so instead, Frosttails are going to directly clear the high ground. Clearing is basically when you remove an opponent from a space. Kyo on Cassidy doesn't really like playing on the high ground. He doesn't really care about it. Cass lacks the range for it to be practical, but what Kyo also doesn't like is when Zydra's Freja is able to sit up on the high ground for free. So what Frosttails do is they rotate up to the high ground and force Quick Esports off of it, not because Frosttails want the high ground, but because they don't want Quick to have it. Kyo pretty much immediately rolls forward from here and ends up knocked off. He likely would have dropped anyways, so this boop didn't make a major difference. Kyo is provided with a Suzu and Matrix pocket so that he does not die, well, at least for a few seconds. He does die eventually, and this nullifies the progress that Frosttails have made, forcing them back, but not before Pack kills an overextending Zydra. Willis goes to chase Majin on D.Va, who had fallen low, but he accidentally sends himself over the roof. You can see the regret when he looks back and realizes his fate. Kyo deals a ton of damage, breaking Willis' mech, but he had just enough momentum to essentially shit his mech down Frosttail's side and fling himself back into Quick Esports territory. Kyo pushes forward and lands a few shots on Zydra's Freja. Majin dives in to follow up on that damage, and then Kyo decides to dive as well because who hasn't heard of Cast Dive? Kyo can roll in like this because he knows Gogo is going to use beat aggressively. Trust is very important, and this strategy doesn't work if Kyo doesn't fully trust his team. Kyo is able to take down Natsuki, and Gogo finishes off Zydra. Frosttails win this fight definitively, but they still need to deal with Natsuki's beat next fight. Well, you only need to deal with that beat if you give Natsuki a good opportunity to use it. Kyo looks for a hyper-aggressive Deadeye overlooking Quick's spawn, which catches Quick completely off guard. Kyo is provided with Lucio amp speed, allowing him to push forward quickly while Majin hard pockets Kyo with defense matrix as always. Willis' mech is destroyed and Frosttails disengage. Willis makes the walk of shame back into spawn to swap to get his mech back, and this takes time and costs ult charge. This play bought some time for Kiwi to build up to his Kitsune, which Frosttails can now use to pocket Kyo even more, which will allow him to survive Natsuki's incoming beat.
Scary moment for Quick Esports. Beating first is pretty risky here. They might try to just play this one slow, and Kiwi gonna rip the Kitsune first. Natsuki's able to beat responsibly. But imagine with that self-destruct, they're still willing to fight strong in the close range.
Yeah, Frosttails seems like they always want to be the team that engages, whether it be with a Deadeye, this time with that Kitsune Russ, Cedric needs to stay alive, and Kyo ends up finding the shot, but that's some nice damage that comes down from Pac, as Pac on the Tracer has really been impactful in a lot of these fights, able to come up with some serious damage, kind of turn the tide for Frosttails. It'll be a Kitsune Rush here at the end from Johan, but this looks like it's going to be a round that Frosttails is going to be able to steal.
You know, honestly, the more I see from this Cassidy, the more I like it from Kyo. And like, realistically, at the top of the top, is this going to be meta? I don't think so. But I like that from Frosttails. They're saying, you know what, hey, look, our season, it hasn't gone the way we were hoping. We've been struggling. And they go with the change. They say, you know what, Kyo's probably just feeling more comfortable on the Cassidy. He feels like he can get more done on it.
Frosttails made it work, but it was a little close for comfort. The final submap is University, and this submap in particular is kinda great for Cassidy because of how enclosed it is. This does make Deadeye a little weaker, but it is way easier for Kyo on Cass to fight within his effective range, and he won't need as much help closing distance. Frosttails begin by rotating high ground, but they don't force it. They understand that sending Kyo directly in there, while Quick Esports have all of their cooldowns, is a death sentence. Kyo is booped off of high, and Frosttails follow him. Kiwi Suzu's Kyo, and then Kyo corners Willis' Diva, and Frosttails demech him, gaining a significant advantage. This overextension will cost Quick Esports the first fight. The next fight is pretty weird, but hey, shit happens sometimes. Yohem is practically deleted by Pac, a straight-up Tracer solo kill on a Kiriko with both Suzu and Swift Step available. Zydra's Freya then tries to duel Kyo, but he gets distracted and smacks against a nearby wall, resulting in him taking an unexpected swim. The next fight, Kyo goes for a Deadeye play, wanting to try and pressure Quick on their rotation through this more open area. Majin keeps defense matrix on him, and Kyo also gets Suzu. This Deadeye splits Quick Esports, but doesn't really result in any deaths. Quick just waited out, and then Kyo gets jump scared by his own Kiriko and flashes her like, Kyo, chill out, it's okay. I promise there's nobody there. Frosttails back up and they use the Kitsune right on top of Kyo to continue pocketing him. Kiwi Suzu's Kyo again for fun, and Kyo just walks forward carefree. Once Pac lands a pulse on Natsuki, eliminating Quick's Lucio, the fight leans heavily in Frosttails' favor. Kyo just walks towards Quick's spawn with the help of Defense Matrix, and after killing Zydra, Frosttails back off. They only need to win one more fight. Quick Esports open with their Kitsune, and Gogo uses his beat to match. With the beat, Kyo runs fearlessly into the core of Quick looking for a kill. Kyo distracts Willis for a bit, but he eventually gets the kill. While that was happening though, Frosttails were able to kill Natsuki and Yohem, which leaves Quick without supports. This leaves Kyo free to return from spawn and help with the cleanup. Frosttails, even if it was a little close, managed to beat Freya with Cass.
More overtime touches though needed. Natsuki's back just in time with the beat. This could be turning the fortunes for Quick Esports. It's gonna be a long road back in the round from here. But they can't find kills off the beat. They're gonna have to do this one the old-fashioned way. And Kyo holding the point with the high noon. Frosttails looking to take their first map of the stage. Self-destruct over the top. Tracer with another overtime touch dip. Finally caught from the flashbang from Kyo, and he seals the deal. Frosttails take Oasis. Big turnaround here. I thought Quick Esports would kind of be dominant in this series. I thought the question was how quickly can they win? How solidly can they buff up their map diff? And now Frosttails is throwing that all into question.
If you're enjoying this video and want to see more, the most that you can do is leave a comment and subscribe. Engagement helps me a ton, and the support means so much, especially since I don't have sponsors for these videos. Consider becoming a member to get early access to some of these videos, since that helps keep my videos sponsor free. And make sure to check out my Twitch, where I'm live right now when this video drops with an OWCS co-stream. Thank you. I'm sure you may have noticed the interesting crosshair that Majin was using earlier on Oasis, and of course he has another beautiful crosshair here for us on Circuit Royale. This square almost takes up as much of the screen as the Mercy Mythic, and you know, that's okay because Mercy players don't really need to see anything anyways. Speaking of Mercy, yeah, Frosttails run Mercy, and you know what? I think this Mercy crosshair is pretty optimal. Aiming Guardian Angel can sometimes be a challenge, so I would personally recommend this one. The crosshairs this match were something. Players were absolutely enjoying the fact that broadcasts can see what they're using. That's a new feature. I personally didn't have the setting on while recording the replays for the POVs. That's my bad. I mean, I think capturing this Juno crosshair would be worthwhile. It's absolutely necessary to be able to aim speedring, right? Yeah, truly, definitely. This May crosshair is also, well, you know, I don't even know. The X is a new one. I don't know what this is for. And Majin decides to swap crosshair for the second round of Circuit Royale. And you know what? I think this crosshair is great for aiming defense matrix. You simply need to understand the crosshair meta to get it. Freja was banned here on Circuit Royale, and since the map has longer sightlines, both teams were on Sojourn, which wasn't a huge surprise. There were a few interesting moments like this very sad reset, where Pac tried to use Ice Block to jump off the map to prevent Quick from getting ult charge, but he missed, granting Natsuki the kill. Another key moment was when Dit managed to land a double Pulse Bomb in a fight where Quick Esports were at a major ult disadvantage. This allowed Quick to full cap the map. Oh yeah, Majin also remeched on top of Zydra, who just popped Overclock, canceling the ult in the final fight, which is absolutely hilarious, but Quick Esports still took it and made the series even.
With the rally here early on for Quick Esports. Oh, what? That's the Overclock.
Zydra was trying to pop that Diva, but instead she returns the favor, but Johan forced him to the orbital ray. Maybe off that play, it is gonna be enough to stabilize. Go pops the rally, hold on. And the Ray as well, just supports and tank here. They're trying to stabilize through it, but Quick Esports still fighting at near full strength here. Frosttails desperate, trying to clutch this one out in the overtime, but it's not enough. And Quick Esports win their map pick. Got a bit scrappy at points, was kind of scrappy the whole time. But in the end, Quick Esports even up the series 1-1. Ball's back in the court for Frosttails. Where are they gonna pick?
Frosttails pick Runasapi for the third map this series, and they ban Juno to force their preferred Kiriko Lucio that they love to use to pocket Cassidy, but Quick decide to ban the Cass, forcing a Freya mirror. This wasn't great for Frosttails, and they seemed pretty uncomfortable for the first half of the map. Quick Esports gained a massive lead, pushing the whole way to 124 meters before Frosttails even managed to fight back. When a team gains this much of a lead early on in a push, it becomes almost impossible to win. In the final moments of this map, Frosttails did manage to lock in though, and they actually almost won. Kyo opened this fight in the center of the map by winning the Freya duel against Zydra, and then he kills Natsuki afterwards. Frosttails lose both supports, but still manage to pull through in this fight. Majin kills Willis while he is in Baby Diva form, so Frosttails have tank advantage. Both teams have respawns come through, and the fight continues on. Majin eats Dip's Pulse Bomb, and Pac pressures the backline of Quick Esports. Once Pac finishes off Yoham's Kiriko, the dominoes fall, and Frosttails take the fight in mid. Quick Esports have both support ultimates for the next fight, so Frosttails practically need a miracle, but they actually pull it off. Majin on Diva anchors bot in overtime. When Yoham uses his Kitsune to attack Frosttails, Majin does his best to play behind the bot and take the least amount of damage possible, while the rest of Frosttails back up to the corner and wait the Kitsune out. Wanting to close the fight quickly, Quick get impatient, and Natsuki uses Beat aggressively to push the backline of Frosttails. Gogo managed to build the Beat just in time though, and matches the Beat to keep Frosttails in the fight. Willis even goes for the ultra rare Le Poco Bomb and gets absolutely nothing out of it, likely regretting the decision afterwards. Kiwi finishes off Natsuki, and then Willis trades Gogo. Both teams lose their Lucio player. Pac's kill on Zydra again turned things in Frosttails' favor, and then Kiwi uses Kitsune to close the fight out, leaving Frosttails one more consecutive fight win away from turning this around. Unfortunately, this Kitsune might not have been necessary, and if Kiwi had saved it, this next fight would be much easier for Frosttails. In that next fight, Zydra's Freya finally kicks in, and he lands a perfect bola shot onto Kiwi, securing the kill, and then he takes down Gogo, winning Quick Esports the map. So yeah, Quick Esports did win, but all it took was Zydra soloing the backline. That was a little too close, and a pretty crazy performance from Frosttails. I feel that Majin was particularly impressive on Diva this match, and his disciplined playstyle in these final few fights was the key that allowed Frosttails to get so close to winning. The fourth map pick, again from Frosttails, is King's Row. This is another map that is closer range in most areas, and it's even a classic Cassidy map. Well, classic as in he was popular here in Overwatch 1. Cass has definitely fallen out of fashion since. Quick Esports decided to inhibit the Kyo pocket win condition by banning the D.Va this time, which makes a lot of sense. It's easier to kill Kyo if he isn't perma defense matrixed. Who would have thought? We're not going to break down this entire map, but let's look at how Kyo generally played it here on the Cass. Frosttails do lose this first fight and the first point, which is unfortunate, but they manage a great second point hold, and it all starts with this Kyo flank on the high ground. From this position, Kyo catches Zydra off guard and secures an early pick, and this provides for a rare opportunity, a King's Row second point spawn hold. Also, ignore the fact that the game thinks that Kyo's on Freya for some reason, like she's so strong that the game itself can't comprehend that Kyo's running Cass. King's Row second is one of the rare cases where the second point spawn can be held, and this is done by holding the high ground positions around the spawn room. The second point King's Row spawn is pretty easy to shove, and it can be difficult to walk out since every exit is on the low ground. Kyo actually rolls to get behind the spawn doors, and this position is just supremely annoying to deal with. When Gogo secures a kill on Yoham's Juno, Frosttails collapse onto Quick Esports and shove them right back into the spawn room. Kyo gets a late pick on Natsuki, and then Pac throws a pulse onto Willis, who is standing on the door, securing the final blow. On the next attempt to break the spawn hold, Quick Esports are forced to use their ultimates. They use both support ultimates, Orbital Ray and Beat, just so that they could begin to make cart progress. This was traded for Beat and Downpour, which, by the way, is an excellent trade. The spawn hold also allows Frosttails to return and contest at the first corner, essentially granting an extra fight here on second point. Willis pushes up a little too far on Ramatra, and Kyo immediately punishes with a solo Deadeye. Yeah, that Annihilation, that's not saving you. Of course, to balance out that awful play from Willis, Kyo had to set up on the dumbest flank he could think of. Like, this isn't even real, what are we doing? Actual insane behavior from Kyo, but I guess it's fine, I don't even know at this point. This was unfortunately the start of Frosttails' demise on their defense, and from here on out, they were fighting a slow, losing battle.
Royale from Quick, and sound barriers now answer from both sides.
Better sound barrier from Quick. The focus fire with the Dragon Blade is enough. 2 from Dip.
Little Ray in response from Yoham. All the ultimates are down. Everything is going down. Dip, Blade, cuts through that beat. 2 kills. Go and Pac. And it's a fight win for Quick Esports.
The Cassidy here, no control over high ground. It is not going to be a scenario you're going to win where Majin now pops the Annihilation, going to move on to the payload.
That's good value from the Annihilation, should be enough. Dip finds 1, but losing those 2 players is going to be pretty painful for Quick.
And now Annihilation is still not the best situation for Majin to be using this, but is able to kill Zydra. Natsuki also falls. Annihilation is traded. Willis is deciding to use his own. And now it looks like Majin decides to back off. Both Annihilations expire.
Quick Esports, you got this Blade coming up, right? Blade plus Ray, they're just kind of farming it up here, but Majin just runs right.
Can Majin live? Actually, yeah. Yeah, Majin is gonna live. Dip. Puts the whole blade into Majin finally. The kill finished by Yoham. Kyo is able to find 1 kill into Dip, but it looks like Frosttails are, you know, they don't have anyone left. There's nobody to touch. There's nothing. Okay. To win this, Frosttails realized that they really couldn't rely on pocketing Cassidy, partially because they kinda couldn't without the D.Va available. Kyo locks the Freya, and Frosttails mirror the Ramatra and Juno for their attack. Frosttails will need to full cap the map and win in rounds 3 and 4.
Needs to get something done here on the Freya. I think this is one who we haven't seen as much production from, but Dip oversteps the mark, getting punished. And a parting explosive shot from Kyo does find Zydra. Pac looking to snowball more. Maybe has bitten off a little bit more than he can chew here. Needs the help from the Lucio to stay alive into this one.
Go, able to kill Dip immediately. Zydra's dead. Okay. Frosttails are going to break this in a few seconds.
Hold spawn available here for Dip. There's going to be an orbital ray that opens things up. Oh, look at this. They just barrel through the front line. Quick Esports kind of just playing around that corner, potentially, not ready for the aggression there from Frosttails. But Jake, that's Quick Esports also investing their orbital ray into this as well.
Willis is holding the front line, though, pretty solid. Continuing that Annihilation, continuing to get value off that, and has some full cooldowns when it comes off. So they've been able to endure through a lot of these ultimates. Majin has to be the difference maker with the Annihilation of his own, and into the backline, he's already here.
Still hasn't even used it.
In pretty strong position here. You've got to recontest the Annihilation. You don't have the opportunity to back off, and that's going to get it over the line. Frosttails cap second, 4:40 on the clock.
I'm not sure what happened there. Pure chaos, but Frosttails, they push on to the 3rd point.
And this is another crosshair for the ages here from Juno. Orbital ray of his own.
I don't even know where I would aim here.
Charging forward. Big missiles over the top. Does some damage, but Once again, I mean, the speed kiting is so doable in this comp, right? With the double speed boost potential.
Yeah.
And that crosshair or something else. Here it is. This is also kiteable, realistically, by Frosttails. They're going to go for it here. You see they're going to back, and they successfully do so. Okay.
Willis
what?
very low. Somehow they're able to keep Willies alive.
And Dip trades it back, punishes Keo for the over-aggression. Now into the back line, has that dash reset. Not able to get the reset one more time, but Gogo is down to 1 HP on this Lucio. Surely this is just too much for the attackers to continue to push forward.
No.
Quick Esports, they need to get 2 fights here. Here's the Blade coming in aggressive. Double DPS ult, drop from Quick. They're trying to get some kills, but of course the beat is protecting everyone for Frosttails, and they're just wiping the floor with that double support ultimate advantage. However, is it enough? Quick Esports, they're gonna have the potential recontest here.
Now it's going to be a rush to recontest. You have to try and prevent these support ultimates from Quick Esports from getting value. The beat from Natsuki only hits 3 players. Pax able to kill Zydra because of that. Pax able to get 2 kills. Zydra dip, both gone. Meijin finishes off Yoham. It is winnable. Yoham is never going to build up to this orbital ray. Frosttails, they've placed Quick Esports into a situation where they can only draw. I think that this could go to a map 5.
Yeah, and Pac wasn't able to find the connection, but did create a lot of opportunities elsewhere. The front line now crumbling Quick Esports. They don't have the heroes to hold this point. It's going to be Frosttails evening up the series here, 2-2 on their map pick of King's Row, and we're going to be going to Flashpoint.
Wait, Frosttails might win this. They're going to win this. Okay, Zydra gets a kill. Natsuki gets one as well. Pac dashes through. Oh, wow. We almost saw a draw. With that map win, Frosttails have managed to take Quick Esports, the star rookie team, to a 5th and final map. Quick Esports do have the advantage here with the map pick in first ban though, and they will go with New Junk City, and take out another part of Frosttails' composition, this time the Lucio. Without Lucio available, Frosttails are forced to mirror the Brig Juno Brawl backline, and they end up deciding to mirror the Ramatra and Freja. It is a little surprising to me that Frosttails decided not to run the Cass again, especially on an OK Cass map, but that Lucio Kiriko backline, especially with the Suzus, may make a pretty big difference in the viability of the Cassidy. Yes, you could run Kiriko Juno, but that is a backline that can be run down by Dip's Genji. It's a bit of a glass cannon and could actually backfire and make it harder for Kyo to survive on Cass. Frosttails do manage to take a flashpoint, but they seemed completely outmatched the whole time. At the very end, we do actually get to see the Kiriko Juno in action as a counterswap to Mei, but that didn't save Frosttails. They pushed Quick Esports to their limit while also avoiding Freja as much as possible. But with hero bans in play, it was just too difficult to close things out.
There doesn't seem to be in the full freeze is enough. Annihilation doesn't get enough done. Pac with the Blade, he needs to clutch this one out. We're coming into that final fight. Here's the Blade, but he's low. He needs to find a kill, has to back off, has to fall out of it, and it's so desperate here for Frosttails. It may be a pullback here. Bullet shot goes wide from Zydra. Quick Esports, so they still have the rally, the annihilation. So much damage to be brought to bear, and they're going to be cleaning this one up, not just the map, but the series. Quick Esports, it's such a scrappy fight, but in the end, Frosttails fumble and cannot take it down.
Man, a brutal loss here for Frosttails as they were in it till the very end, but they kind of fumbled it there.
It is honestly impressive though that the Cass pocket was so effective that Quick Esports were practically forced to target ban the remainder of the match. This was a fun strategy to cover because I think it demonstrates how the playstyles of certain heroes can change to play around a predetermined win condition. You can dive with D.Va, but you can also go for a brawlier playstyle. You can split your Lucio to take angles with your Tracer and flank, but you can also have your Lucio speed your Cass around the map. There is no one correct playstyle, and it is often dependent on the composition at hand or even the specific fight. Honestly, if I had to name an MVP for this match, it would have to be Majin. The way he was able to adapt his D.Va playstyle and his excellent performance at the end of Runasapi were enough for me to see that he's a pretty solid player. I love seeing players rise up to the OWCS level. Majin is relatively new to this level of play, but so far I have not been disappointed. Kyo and Gogo are also my former players, and it was great to see them play. All around, this was a solid performance from Frosttails. They may be doomed to relegation, but at least they put up a fight on the way down. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Not gonna lie, this far in, I'm suffering a bit. Wisdom teas suck, and I'm kind of just working through the pain to record, so make sure to subscribe. This one was tough for sure. This video was definitely more focused on one specific player, and I think that might make it a little easier to follow at times, so I hope that helped. I am also hoping to cover the recent Life of Her strats next, so stay tuned for that. Again, make sure to join me on stream, and I'll see you next time.